Greetings and salutations, my friend. Heap upon yourself the many bountiful pleasures of the 126th episode of Shiren, the Squanderer. Welcome back, Wanderers. I promised I would make another episode within a week, and I have done it just barely. I sacrificed so much to do it all just for you. Alright, or I did it a little bit for myself too, because I am going to be super stoked to finally reach the Gauntlet of Pain in Phase Final Puzzle. It starts pretty much on floor 80. Last episode I was sorely tempted to crack open my precious, but I resisted, and so I now have 2 melding jars, and my precious items are baking well. Look at that, I got the perfect 4 melds on my shield. Slow hunger, spiky meld, dodgy meld. What is that meld called? The one that helps you dodge a lot with the eye on it. I forgot what it's called. And protection from theft. Pretty soon here I'm gonna, Staff of Sloth. Gotta try to make some room for that. Soon here I'm gonna wish I had a Dragon Ward meld, but I think if I can find a couple more Kairos on the next few floors, I'll be alright. It's a little bit, you might think like, whoa, Doofy, you got so many awesome items, no way you're gonna die. You can go through Kairos really quickly coming up here pretty soon, because everything is taking up damage from you constantly on the entire floor. So if you just happen to land far away from the stairs a few times, I have literally gone through 5 entire Cairo jars on a single floor in the 90s before in Phase Final Puzzle. I was like, I got this in the bag, and then dragons were just like breathing fire at me the entire time. And not 5 presses on a Cairo jar, mind you, 5 entire Cairo jars on a single floor. It was insane. Whew. Alright, another melding jar. Man, they really want me to break up with my precious early, don't they? I feel like it's a little too early. I'm not super desperate yet. So I'll show you the trick with the staffs, where you can combine a lot of staffs in a melding jar. Make one super mega staff with a lot of charges on it. I'll combine a few of these postpones. Speaking of time to break open your strengthening jar, this episode I'm going to take a break from the game design. I know last episode I said I would talk about the museum shop mini game or side game in the real-time roguelike. I'll save that for another episode, or possibly later this episode. We'll see how it goes. And I wanted to talk about something I know you've all been thinking about. You've been watching this playthrough and been thinking, sure, Shiren has a lot to teach me about game design, and morality, and how to live a happy, successful life. That's all pretty cool, I guess, but what I really want to know is, let me look and see how many charges I have on this. Take a look. Oh yeah, so 7 charges. Not as much as I was hoping for, but at least I know how many charges are left on that staff. That's very valuable to have. That will help me last a few more floors here. No, what I really want to know about, what I hope and pray to see on every Let's Play video I watch, is an earnest and frank discussion of retirement planning. I need to plan for my retirement, Doofy. I'm almost 12 years old. Oh! Whew, speaking of planning, guess who has 2 revival herbs now? Doofy Doo, that's who. There it is. You know what? I'm gonna go ahead and take out everything I have that's cursed. And maybe I'll be able to uncurse everything. But yeah, I know you like the tips and the tricks and the jokes, but what you're really longing for is advice on retirement planning. You figured it out, working is for suckers, and you want to retire early by the time you're 40. Well, Shiren the Wanderer has lessons for you, my friend, so gather round. Specifically, the mechanics of the strengthening jar are pretty much like a bank account, more or less. Alright, I'm gonna try to uncurse the curse scroll of blessing. Let's see. Oh yeah, everything's coming up, Doofy. So yeah, what's the first most obvious thing to know about the strengthening jar? Well, the earlier you get a strengthening jar, the earlier you put your items in, the stronger you can become in a Phase Final Puzzle run. That is common sense. If you find a strengthening jar on the first few floors, you could potentially get like a plus 70. Assuming I found one on maybe floor 2, I'd be like plus 73. Well, let me think if any item you can find goes up that high. Okay, no item you can find goes up that high. But you could get like a plus 60. And that would make you pretty much invulnerable. And it's all because you started baking your items early. And that principle holds for real life retirement as well. The earlier you start, the better it is. I remember when I was like 10 years old, I was, just like any kid. I was in math class having shattering orgasm after shattering orgasm, learning about equations and numbers and wondering, I just learned the formula for the volume of a sphere. How can math get any more sexy? When we learned, I think it was like 4th grade maybe? It must have been around 4th grade. We learned the formula for simple interest. And I found out that you could get money. Keep in mind, this is the late 80s. So in the late 80s, if you put money in a savings account, you could get 10% interest. 10% in a savings account. I don't know if you kids listening to this realize how insane that is, but that is insanely high. You put in $1,000 in a savings account. At the end of a year, you have $100, roughly. And I couldn't believe it. I remember when I was a kid, I was like, wait, you just give money to the bank and then they just give you money? Just free money? Just for holding your money? It was just like amazing to me. And I immediately figured out that if I had $1 million in the bank, which I did not have obviously, I would make $100,000 a year for doing nothing. And I thought, all right, that's it. That's the plan. Get $1 million as soon as possible and just coast, and I'll never have to work again. And I had already figured out, fairly young, that all the adults around me didn't really seem to enjoy their jobs. My dad liked his job. And I thought, okay, I need to find a job that I enjoy. But if I don't, and if I'm stuck working somewhere that isn't super fun, I want to retire as soon as possible. And all I need to do is save $1 million, and I'll have $100,000, which is an impossibly large amount of money back then. It's still a pretty big amount of money. $100,000 a year for doing nothing. I was like, all right, I got the plan. And then I calculated it all out. I was like, all right, I got to save around like $25,000 a year. And 30 years of that, I'll be good to go. So I had the plan. I was ready to go. My dad helped me out by, whenever he got an interest check from his savings account, he would give me half of it. And he would say like, I almost said my real name. He'd say, Doofy, if you save money when you're young, if you save like half of it, before you know, you'll have a lot of money saved up. You'll be earning a lot of interest. And I kind of was like, I don't know if this is a really good idea. But I tried to do it. I tried to save half of the money I got. And of course I had no expenses as a kid, so I was just getting a little bit of an allowance. Is there anything else I can combine? I guess this other staff will postpone. Alright. I am going to use my 5-slot melding jar to combine some more staffs, just so I can last a little bit longer. I think I'm still going to break my precious, but this will make a little bit more room. I really only need the 4-slot to meld the sword and shield for my precious. So I'll save that 4-slot and get a couple more multi-charge staffs, just in case I hit a really horrible monster house soon. But we're getting pretty close here where I think I'm going to break up. So of course that was just simple interest. The next year, like 5th or 6th grade, I found out about compound interest and my mind was totally blown. I was like, holy crap. I plugged it into the formula. I was like, how much money do I have to save to be a millionaire in 30 years? Because I'm like 10, 11 years old now. I want to retire by the time I'm 40. I just need $1 million by the time I'm 40 and I'll be good to go. So I figured it out. I was like, oh, it's going to be like $600 a month. If I can save $600 a month and get 10% interest in a savings account, if I plug it into the compound interest formula, I get like $1 million by the time I'm 40 and I can just coast. It's like, all right, that is so awesome. And of course, $600 was an impossibly large amount of money, but I kept that in the back of my head. And I always knew, because even our math teacher told us, and our math teacher was kind of this jerk, but I could tell when he told us about compound interest, he was like seriously serious, like he was into it. Like he was trying to impart some really important knowledge to us. He's like, just save your money right now, kids. And compound interest will do its magic, and you will be rich by the time you're my age. I wish I had done it. And he told it to us like a couple times, and I remembered. And so later on in my life, whenever I got money, I saved half of it. So 50% of all the money I got, I actually saved. I fell off the wagon in college, but then I got back on it in a big way after college when I got a job. But that was the first rule, and you learn that with the strengthening jar. Use the strengthening jar early, and you'll get bigger returns later on. Common sense, but you know, when you're young, sometimes you don't think about that stuff. You're like, I'm too worried about like girls and whether I'm gonna pass my classes and video games and all that stuff. To like worry about saving money. I mean, whatever money I get, I'm gonna spend on cool stuff. Trust me, just save a little bit of money, just a little bit, just a few $100s, just half of what you get, and that money is gonna grow to a ridiculous amount by the time you're of middle age. The second principle of good strengthening jar use is making it automatic. And I just automatically just assumed half of my money wasn't even there because I am incredibly impulsive. If I get, like I work overtime sometimes, I will spend my overtime pay online shopping before I've even finished working the day of overtime. That's how impulsive I am with money. But if I just automatically get rid of half of it, just like an automatic deduction, and I never see it, then I don't even have to think about it. And the strengthening jar is the same way. You put it in there and you just play the game as usual. And every floor you advance, you're gonna gain a level. All you have to do is make sure you protect the jar from like stumble traps and enemies that can break your jars or destroy your jars. But if you protect it, you really don't have to think about it. Some people make investing really complicated and they trade individual stocks constantly and they're like day traders. They're trying to beat the market and make the big score. There are a few people who are good at that. That's like a second job though. That takes a lot of work. If you really just want to make a solid return, just a mutual fund, just a Vanguard index mutual fund or real estate, which takes a little bit more work. But the easiest thing, mutual fund, Vanguard, low fees, easy to do. You're going to beat most managers. Be very wary of financial advisors, professional financial advisors that try to make investing seem super complicated. They're trying to make it seem complicated so that you hire them to manage your money. But it's not complicated and you can beat their returns. Vanguard, I think, has even like target retirement funds now. You just pick the year you want to retire and they will balance the fund for you. I don't do that. I rebalance every year, but it's almost effortless. It's not like having a second job. It just happens automatically. See, my strengthening jar just going up automatically floor by floor. And that's what you want your investing to be. You don't want it to be super complicated. If you own property, you got to rent it. Get some good renters, low turnover that aren't going to trash the place, and then you just got automatic money coming in. This is a big room. I always get a little nervous in big rooms in case there's a horrible ranged enemy. But I don't think anyone on these floors can really take me out. As long as he doesn't, yeah. So I think I'll be alright here. And then the last two rules, besides keeping it easy and starting early, are just knowing when to put it in. Don't put it in too early. Don't put your money into your retirement accounts too early. And don't take it out too early. It would be like if you find a Kybra's blade on the first floor of Face Final Puzzle and you immediately stick it in Strengthening Jar, you might need it. So you don't want to stick all your money into retirement accounts when you might have an emergency come out and you can't get to it easily. So you want to start, I think I really started planning for retirement seriously like after I had my first job, so maybe 22, 23. So it was earlier than the average person, but it wasn't so ridiculously early that all of my money was going to retirement when I was like a teenager. Because, you know, you want to have fun too. And then don't take it out too early. I know people who panicked during the crash in 2008. They took the money out of their retirement accounts. You have to pay 10% on that, plus you have to pay income taxes if it's income. And you're in a high bracket now because you have a job. So let's say I know one took out around $100,000. It's close to 40% of that is income tax because they're in a high bracket. So that's $40,000 immediately gone. And then 10% of that, there's a penalty, a 10% penalty for taking it out early before you're of retirement age. That's another $10,000 for nothing just because they panicked. So 10,000, 40,000, they took out $100,000. How much money did they actually get from that? They got like 50,000, like half of it was gone immediately for nothing. And if they just stayed calm and not taken it out early, then they would have still had a lot of money. The market bounced back. They'd probably have 200,000 in there easily. So they lost maybe like $150,000 because they panicked. So don't panic. Just rebalance every year and get a little bit more conservative as you get older. That would be like in Shiren the Wanderer if you broke open your strengthening jar too early. Let's say I broke it open like after only 5 floors. Then sure, I'd get a nice little boost to my sword and shield. But right now, when I was super deep in Fate's Final Puzzle, I'd have trouble fighting some of these really difficult monsters. I seem to be doing okay now, but I am going to break it open here pretty soon. I feel like either this floor or the next floor. Definitely before I hit 80. I'm going to crack open my Precious. Because, you know, we've been together a long time. When did I meet Precious anyway? I think it was like in the 50s? It had to be. So back in my 50s, I met my Precious. And it felt like magic when I first picked her up. When I slid my junk in. And every day was like a new adventure. And when I went up the stairs, you know, it meant something. It was different. It was exciting. But now, you know what, Precious? Feels like I'm just going through the motions. You know? Shoot arrows, kill the monsters, find the stairs. It's just every floor is the same. The magic is gone. I think it's time for us to see other jars. You know, kind of take a break, explore our options. Don't bring the melding jar into this. She had nothing to do with it. Alright? I didn't even put anything into the melding jar. Maybe a few staffs. But it didn't mean anything to me. Come on, Precious. Don't be like that. You know it's not working. It hasn't been working for like 10 floors. You know? Ooh, that reminds me. Sorry to interrupt my heartbreaking strengthening jar breakup speech. But you have to know your number too when you retire. And a lot of people make that really complicated, or they just make up some random number. Don't make up a number. All you have to do is think, how much money a year do I need to be happy? And then you can withdraw 4% from your retirement savings and it would never go away. I sometimes make it 3% because I'm super paranoid, but 4% would be 25 times. So let's say okay, I need $50,000 a year to be happy. Assuming my house is paid off and, you know, I'm just going to spoil the grandkids a little bit, but I don't have a lot of expenses. I'm just going to not take any super crazy vacations. If I had 50 grand a year, plus my pension, plus maybe Social Security, maybe not, who knows if that's around, then, you know, I'll probably be in the 6 figures. That's enough for me to be happy. So 50,000, 4% a year means you got to multiply that by 25. So 50 times 25 would be $1,250,000 would be how much money you'd have to save. That would be your number. Once you hit that number, you really wouldn't have to work anymore. And my number, I'm not going to tell you, but I'm on track to hit it by the time I'm around 40 or in my early 40s, depending on how the market goes. And that's just a cool feeling. It's a cool feeling to know that you're working because you enjoy your job. You're not working because you have to work. And I love my job. I mean, I would almost do it for nothing. Don't tell the federal government that, though. But of course, ideally, you want to have a job that you just love to do and that you're passionate about. And I found that job. Sorry, I hate to brag, but it really does make me happy. It's like playing a video game and getting paid for it, pretty much. A high-stakes video game. Which is kind of what I'm doing right now. You know what? I have a nice area here. I found all the traps. It's not working out, Precious. I can't believe you went through my inventory and found my melding jar. I thought we had trust. We had trust between us. And you looked at my inventory. You know that melding jar means nothing to me. Alright? I didn't even use her, alright? Ugh. Sure, I did pick her up, but nothing happened. What can I say? You know the spark is gone, alright? That's not gonna work, Precious, okay? It's not gonna work. We need to spend some time apart. Specifically, you need to spend some time apart. Broken apart into pieces. After I throw you into a wall. So let me clean up my inventory here. We had a good run, you know? We had a really good run. It's always a little risky to do any kind of purse rummaging at the beginning of a floor. But, I don't know. I think I'm gonna do it. It's time. Oh, it's so hard to break up. I said you have to know your number. My strengthening jar number is 20. I'm at plus 20 now. That is ludicrous. I gotta break it. Oh. They say breaking up is hard to do, but that was actually pretty easy, Pantsweasel. I just gotta be careful when I meld this stuff. Whew. Army cock coming in. Luckily it's not a tank. As soon as I meld this sword and shield, assuming nothing horrible happens, I'm going to be pretty much invulnerable. So just gotta get the right order. You always want the base, obviously, to be the first thing you put in. Let's take a look. Look at that. 26 and 33. There's certainly still a possibility that I could die, but it's getting less and less likely that anything could possibly take me out. They would have to destroy my weapon and shield somehow. And I have been deep in Faith's Final Puzzle when my shield got weedified. I don't know who did it. Somebody weedified my shield. And I still made it. Just because I had an awesome sword. So really they'd have to destroy both of those somehow. And I'd have to go through 2 revival herbs. So it's possible for a bunch of dragons to do it, but it would be really, really difficult. I am a little concerned about the low number of Kairos I have and the lack of a Dragon Ward meld and the lack of recovery armband. So I think I'm going to rush through these last few floors as fast as I can. But I'm fairly confident now that this is going to be a winning run. Because look at me. I'm mowing through everything. Like nothing can stop me now. So I feel like I took it out at just the right time. That's another risk with retirement, as with strengthening jars. You leave it in too long. Let's say I left all my items in the strengthening jar, and then I hit a Great Hall monster house with a bunch of dragons and a bunch of really powerful enemies. And they killed me before I could even crack open my strengthening jar. That would be a huge waste. That's like never spending the money from your retirement accounts until you're like 80 or 90 and then you like die a day later. I mean, you gotta have fun. So that's why I made the 50% rule. I spend half my money and I save half my money. And it's been scientifically proven that once you make around $90,000, $100,000, your happiness level kind of levels off. So the difference in happiness between a person who makes like 200,000 and a person who makes 100,000, it's not that big. I work with a lot of air traffic controllers that work at really high-level facilities, and they make pretty good money. I mean, if their wife works, they could be pulling in like close to $500,000 a year. They are not significantly happier than someone who makes around 6 figures a year, maybe $90,000, $100,000. So there's a point at which, and I know if you're an achiever or a killer, what I'm saying is going to sound like insanity. Like, what? Don't spend all my money, save half of it? But my neighbor has the latest Hummer, or has a super fancy Tesla, or the latest iPhone, or what is that fancy computer? Like oh my gosh. Just for a second, I thought Shiren was going to kill me because I got knocked under the lava. That would have been horrible. Get knocked under lava and you instantly die. I have some revival herbs, but I know it didn't happen, but that's the kind of horrible prank this game would pull. Jetfowl. Really, there's nothing you can do to me now, Jetfowl, except possibly, I guess you could electrify my revival herb. That would kind of suck. I have so many items. Nothing can possibly take me down. Even hunger. Look how big my maximum fullness is. Yeah, I'm unstoppable. I don't even have to think about what I'm doing now. No, I do have to think if I get in a really dangerous situation, so I'm going to keep being careful. I feel like I could almost just coast to the end at this point. So, I don't know. Maybe there'll be a super swanky monster house. I actually hope it doesn't happen. I hope the rest of this run is fairly uneventful and simple, because it will feel so good to get this bonus dungeon behind me. I think it's going to happen, Pantsweasel. This is the run. So, yeah, if you're anyone but an explorer, or if your dominant aspect is anything but exploration, if you're an achiever, if you're mainly a killer, mainly a socializer, everything I'm saying about retirement is going to sound insane. You'd be like, all my neighbors and all my friends have the latest gadgets and the nicest house, and I gotta have a 7-bedroom house because my neighbor does, and my kids have to have the latest fashions and the best computers and all the super cool systems, and everything has to be state of the art and have to have the best. If you're an achiever, you do because you're always comparing yourself to other people on some kind of social hierarchy. If you're a killer, you want to be dominant over other people, so you want to feel like a winner. You want to feel better than them, better than individual people. And if you're a socializer, if all your friends are doing stuff, if they have certain products, or they're living a certain lifestyle, you want to do it too. If you're going out only like once every other week, and they're going out every week, you're missing out on all those cool experiences with your friends. I mean, you're going to see all the social media, and it's just going to eat you up inside that you weren't there for some of it. So I know it's so much harder for someone who's social, or an achiever, or a killer. But if you happen to be a weirdo explorer who's a little bit asocial, like Doofy Doo, trust me, when you find a point in your life, and I found this point fairly early, it was right after college, when you're like, you know what, I'm really happy now. You know, I don't make a lot of money, but everything I need in life, I can get, I have. I'm pretty satisfied with the way things are right now. At that point, all the money you make from raises and getting better jobs later on, if you can just buck the trend and resist increasing your expenditures as your salary goes up, you will retire early. And it feels so sweet to be able to retire in your 40s. All right, I am going to go ahead and retire. Wow, I talked a long time this episode about retirement. Start saving early, make it easy and automatic, put in half of what you make, and take it out early enough to have some fun, and you will be ahead of the curve, my friend. Ahead of the curve. A couple staffs, a sword and shield. I slid them in, it felt so right. Let me tell you about the jar I broke last fight. It's understood I had to leave her, just to ensure this run won't end. I tossed her right before a cock started closing in.
Shattering orgasm after shattering orgasm.